Everybody, welcome back to Night. I'm Avnish. Today we are building a news aggregator project using Monster. This project will help you understand how to fetch and display news article from external API. So let's get started. Before we dive into the code, let me show you what our final project will look like and features it will have. This is our news aggregator website. It's responsive, meaning it's look great both on desktop and mobile devices. As you can say that it smoothly adjusts its size according to the screen size of different screen sizes. You can change the theme of it also. Here are some of its features. News article display. You can read title, descriptions, author name, published date and time, and source. The source of the original website where you can read the full article. So if user wants to read the full article, they can click on the source and it will be redirected to the original website of that article. Here user can read the whole article. Category selections. So if a user wants to read the top headlines of different categories, for example, business, entertainment, journal, sports, health, and politics. User can filter out news based on the different countries also. So if a user wants to read only news of United States, they can select the country United States and read the articles of the that specific country. For example, user just wants to read the news of Indian articles. They can select country as a India and read the Indian latest news. Before we start coding, there are a few prerequisites you will need. Node.js and VS Code. Visual Studio Code as our code editor. You can download both of them and install in your system from their official website. Basic knowledge of JavaScript and React. This tutorial assumes that you have basic understanding of JavaScript and React. If you don't have that, don't worry, we will cover everything in depth. So let's start it. And now we need to set up our backend. For that, create a folder named News Aggregator and open with VS Code. Now create another folder in our News Aggregator with the name of server, and here we will initialize our server. So first change your directory to the server and we will initialize mpn. It will create a package.json file with all dependencies. Now we will install our required dependencies. For that we will write mpn install. As you can see, our dependencies has been installed. Let's create the file structure. In the root of our project, create a file named server.js in our server folder. Open the servers.js and here we will write our server code. First, we will load our environment variable from .env file using .env. So first create a file with .env. Here we will store our API key. As we can see, we load the environment variable from .env file using .env. This will keep our API key and other sensitive information safe. Now we can import the Express, Axios and Cross. For that, we will write okay. So we have imported Express, Axios and Cross. Express is a minimal, flexible Node.js web application framework that provides a robust set of features for web applications. Axios is a promise-based HTTP client for browsing and Node.js. which we'll use to make requests to our external API. Cross is a middleware that allows us to enable the cross origin resource sharing, which is necessary because we will making requests to our server from a different domain. For example, our front end, which will be in React. Now we will create an instant of our Express application by calling the Express function. For that, we will create another constant variable app, and we will use an Express function. This app object will use to set up our routes and middleware. Okay, we use app.use cross to enable the cross for all routes in our application that allows our front end, which might be running on different origins, to make a request to our backend. We also use app.use express URL encoded extended to pass the incoming request with URL encoded payload setting extended true. True allow us to pass nested objects, which will be used for more complex data structure. Now we will create another constant which will store our API key. Okay, we store our API key in constant. We access this API key from environment variable using process.env. This key will be used to authenticate our request to the news API, ensuring that we have permission to access the data. So for the API key, we will open our browser, search newsapi.org, create your account and get the API key. So by this API key, which is for free, where we get the live top headlines, which will be around a 24-hour delay, and the cross origin resource sharing is enabled for only localhost. So we are going to create it for our localhost. So copy the API key and paste it over here. Don't use this API key because I will delete after this video. Create your own account and use your own API key. Go back to our server. Now we will create a function fetch news. This function will be responsible for making the create request to our provided URL using Axios. So let's create our fetch news function. For that, we will write function fetch news. Okay, so this function fetch news is responsible for making a get request to the provided URL using Axios. Let's break down it further. So the Axios.get URL, this sends a get request to the URL we pass in. Then this dot then responds if a request if the request is successfully executed. The code inside the blog, we check if the response dot, here we have a response dot data dot total result is greater than 0, then to ensure that there are results. If there are results, we respond with JSON object containing the status, success, flag, message, and data. So we will respond with that JSON. Fine. What if there is no data? Then we will write another condition which is else. Then we will respond with a JSON object showing the status 200 success equals to true and message no more result to show. But what if we catch an any error? So for that we use catch. And another response with a JSON. Status will be 500. Success will be false. Message will be failed to fetch data from the API. And we will have an error. Then error will be printed our message. Let's close this and close this. Okay, so we have created a function fetch news with URL and response. We are using XCS to get the URL, and we are also handling the error using .catch. So if there is an error during the request, it executes this block. We respond with JSON object containing the status, flag, error message, and the error details. Okay, so we have done two typo mistakes. So here we have to type response. So remove this A and 2S. Now here we will define a route to get all news. So we are now going to define a route to get all news. So app.get, and this set up a get route, and we are using a callback function to execute. So for that we will write all news. Here we will define a callback function, and we will create a variable, let variable URL, and for the URL we will go to news API documentation, and here you can see that everything for fetching the news, all newses. We can use this HTTP API news RG everything. This is specific for the Bitcoin, but we will little bit tweak it to use for all news. So we will use backtick and paste this over here. Now we are not using it for just Bitcoin, right? We are using for everything. So if you go back to the documentation, you will see two parameters: page size and page. So for example, one page means there will be number of articles for the one page. So one request could be say one request equals to one page, right? And that one page could contain 100 default articles, so it's default to 100. So we will use these two parameters. So let's just use them. We will create another two, let variable page size, and let page. Now this page and page size could be in a string. So if we are sending from our front end, it could be in the string. So we will need to pass it into integer, right? Because the as we can see here it is using int as a data type. So we will have to pass it in integer, and we will request the query. So it will set a default page. If default page is not available, we will use 40 page size, means it will give a 40 article per page. And for the page, let pass it into integer also. Similar, we will use o function. If default is not set, we will use one page. And now we will change it, our everything API, to page and page size. For that, we will use d equals to page. Page is the page, and page size is page size. And as we can now use this constant variable API key over here, so for that we will use curly bracket, and we will use a fetch news function. It will take URL and it will respond us. Okay, so let's go through our gate route for all news once again. So this lines set up a gate route at all news. When the route is exceeded, the callback function is executed. This callback function is going to be executed. This read page size query parameters and convert it into an integer. It is not, if it is not provided, it defaults to 40. And this similarly, this read the page query parameters and default to it 1 if it is not provided. Then we construct a URL for the API request, including the page size and page parameter, and this is for every news, means all news. This calls the fetch news function with the constructed URL and response object, which we have created over here. Now let's set our port. Finally, we have set the server to listen a port defined in our environment variable for the port, and we have used again a callback function which console log server is running and print whatever the port is. So now let's just run this server. Okay, so we have done a little bit mistake over here, semicolon to be here. Okay, so now just go to your server directory and write node server.js. Okay, so I check the code, and the problem over here is that we give as a u as a capital, so do it as a small and run this. And when you type 3000 couldn't get. Now when you type all news, it will display all the news. It's around 40 articles. Here you can see the author, title, description, URL to image, publish it, and content. Everything has been in the format of JSON. Here we can see the status is 200, successfully fetched the data. Okay, as you can see that our localhost for the all news has been working. So our route for the all news has been working. Now let's create route for top headlines. So similarly, we will create a router for top headlines. We will create app.option, and it will have top headlines, and it will come from our front end. So we are using cross, which is cross origin repository. For that, we will also use the same way, get and create a callback function for it also. So app.option top headline, this handle pre-flight request for the cross for the top headlines route, and app.get top headline, this set up the get route at slash top headlines, where it page size, and for the category, as we are required category, right, for in top headlines. So we will create another variable with the name of category, and again request query. Now for the category, there should be a default category, right? User can change from front end, but there should be a default category when they select top headline. So uh, let's just give them a category and a default category as business, and set the URL. So URL will be the same. So we will go to official website again. Here you can see the top headline section, and okay, so it is for the top headline for particular country, but we are just requiring a top headline for particular category, right? So we can use the similar um, definition of it, copy it, use backtick, paste it over here, and like here we use for everything. Now we are using for top headlines, and category could be anything which could be select from the front end. So we will create an so we will use our variable category equals to, and this problem over here, we have to set a language, because we cannot use category uses of any kind of language, right? So for example, if it is top headline and it's coming from China, so it should be in English, right? So we will use a language parameter also. So we will use and we can use language similar, but we are creating for an English audience, so we will write English. And same as in our own use, we set page and page size, we will set the page and page size over here also. So page equals to, okay, so we call the functions once again. Now open the terminal and run the server. So we will run the server once again. Node.js. Now we will write localhost 3000, and for all use we are gonna type top headlines. Okay, so it's not able to read the page because here it is a response. We have to set it to the request. That's it. This might work for this. Okay, so we have to again run the server. Let's see. Yeah, It is able to fetch the top headlines. It's around 80 headlines, I think. So yeah, it's working well. Now let's go and set up our another route for the country specific news. Okay, so for that we are also going to do the same thing for as we done for the top headlines. So option. Okay, so for the country, what URL which is needed, we have to see. So for the country specific, we are going to need country with ISO code along with. So we require 2 letter of ISO code with the country. That's it. So we will write here country slash ISO. Okay, so for the country, we route and fetch top headline for the specific country. So that similarly app.option this handle pre-flight request for cross for the country iOS route ISO route app.get this setups get route at country slash iOS where the iOS is URL parameter representing the country code. We read the page size and page from the query parameter with default value constant country. This read the iOS parameter from the URL. We construct the URL using this parameter called fetch news. And this URL is constructed from here from the documentation. Here you can see that it's fetching the top news for the particular country, and the country will be fetched using the ISO code, and that code gonna be request from the front end. And if we want to check if this has been working or not over here, country and okay, so we are putting it wrong. Here will be the semicolon, and here you can say that success status, but there is no result to show right now. Okay, so there is no more result to show right now, but our data has been means our API has been working and it's able to fetch. Now that our backend is ready, let's move on to the front end. We will use Vite and React to create our user interface. For that, open your terminal, clear the terminal over here, and for creating Vite React, we will write npm create Vite at latest and the name of the our folder. So we will write client. Here it will ask what we are going to use. We are using React, so select React, and we will use JavaScript, so select JavaScript. Now we have to change the directory to client and install all the necessary dependencies. So install. Okay, as you can see, our project dependencies has been installed for the Vite React. We created a new Vite project with the React template and installed the dependencies. Vite is modern front-end build tool that provide a faster and linear development experience for the modern web projects. Now we can run our project also. For that, we will use mpn run there, and it will start at 5173 port of localhost. You can open this link to your browser. As you can see that our Viti React project has been successfully started. This is the basic starting page of the Viti React project. So for that, open your client folder, go to their HTML. Here you can see we have write the news aggregator and app.css. You can remove all this kind of CSS right now. And index.app, you can remove this all div sections to, and index.css also you can remove, and MERN.js. Okay, so how it's work? Let I create h1 tag, right, and I write hi there, welcome to error by night. So this should be display over there, right? Here it is displaying. Now for styling purpose, we can give its a class name. For example, we give it a class name hi, right? Here we will use hi and can give the color, for example, red. Font size 70 pixel. Here you can see it's 70 pixels. But we will not do that. We will not going to write our whole logic and template in app.js. We will our different component over here. For creating the components, we will create another folder and source with name of component. In source, we will create our component folder. So here we will write components, and in this component we will create our different components. For example, we will create header jx. Here we will create our navbar. Before creating our header, a navbar, first we will have to config tailwind access, because we are going to use tailwind for our design purposes. So go to your browser, search tailwind css. Here you can see the installation. Now we have to do what, we have to install the tailwind css. For that, just copy that, open our terminal, clear the terminal, and just install the tailwind css. Now after that, we have to create a file, tailwind config.js. So we will copy this file, create in our client. As you can see that our tailwind.css config has been created. Now we will copy this and paste over here. Now we will copy this to and paste in our index.css. Okay, now you can search in the screen size as, okay, here you will get different media. Means for responsiveness, we can directly copy this and put it in our uh, tailwind.config, so that we don't have to write the media tag in our CSS again and again. So for that we will just copy this screen, we will copy this screen, paste it over, and we will create another component with name, colors, for example light background. We will use. That's it. Our configuration for that element has been done. Now let's go back to our header component. Okay, so we will require React DOM also. So install that also. So open your terminal once again. In our client, we will write npm install React router DOM. Okay, our React router DOM has been installed. Now we will import some necessary dependencies. So for import React, we will import the links from our router. So write links, L should be capital. Okay, now we will create our function. So for function, we will do header, and here we will create a return functions. So return. Now we will create here. We will create a header for HTML and navbar. And here we will create UL. Here we will create a different types of li. Okay, and we will create another list, and one more for the all news, one for the top headlines, one for the. Now in header we have created a new bar, and let's just give relevant CSS to that our new bar. Give it fixed, top equals to 0, left equals to 0, w z index. This section we will create an h3 tag. Let's just give the name to that hp tag. We will create an span tag. Here we will write the name of the class as a logo, and this we will create an image as image tag. Here we will write source. Okay, so for the source you can um, write here, like for example you have a logo in your assets, right? So what you can write here is import whatever the name of your logo. So for example logo from our assets, right? So we will write here dot assets slash logo dot png, and here you can directly write logo. But right now we don't have the logo, so we will give it an alternative. If logo is not loaded, it will show simple news aggregator. So we will remove this. Yeah, that's it. Now let's just give a class name to our UI. Let's just give a class name. Here we are using, let's just give a UL, new UL, that flex and gap. Okay, so all this tailwind you can go to the official website, and for example if you search your flex, you will get all different kinds of tailwind here. So you can just copy my tailwind CSS, or you just can go to the here and try to find what suits for your websites. Okay, now we have to create some constant. So this is our header function. We will create some constant. and we will use our state uh, as a false. Now here we can use it. Okay, so this will be the link, right? So we will use a link tag uh, which we have imported from the route, right? So we are using link, and here we will give it a class name. For example, a link have underline, right? So if you go to the tailoring CSS and write underline offsets, so you can see your underline hover offsets. Underline what they just do is that when we use a link, there will be a underline whatever the name of our link. So here we will say no underline line. Font will be symbiote bold, and this will work like two equals to. We will set this so it's our default, and it work on click. When we click it, we will set this set active, and it's not equals to active. We will write here. Um, so there should be okay. Now this should work fine. This should not be curly braces over here. I will set to the okay. So when a user click, what we have done is that when a user click all those, it will be route to this, and we will go back to our here. And right now we have not route, but we will route here, right? Okay, so go back to our header section again, and here we will write another class name, and this is drop down, right? We give a drop down box. So for example, if it is for just headline, top headline, so it will show the categories to them. So we will write drop down list, and here we will same create the link, and same no underline on flex item. Again we will use an on click function. Okay, so we will create a yeah constant state also for this. So first right here set show. uh, First we will create a constant over here so that it will be easy to for us to load in our return function. So here we will create constant variable which will be an array. Okay, so similarly we created an array variable using use state as a false for our country. Now we can create for the category also. So here we will write category drop down, and we can set this to category drop, and this also use state as a false as we are using the category. So write create a constant variable, and here let's create a name with category, and here we will create an array or a list with all the category. For example, business, entertainment. Okay, so we set our categories also. Now we can use this set function in our on click function. So show. So we will use set show category drop down and not show category drop down to false. Okay, now we can write here top headlines. So it's like top headlines, and here we can use an icon, whatever we want to use. So for that we will use afterward. Now let's go to the way. So now we will create a toggle. So for that we can use the toggle on click functions again. So for that we can use link in class name, again no underline, give a simple font design to it. It will be at some on click equals to toggle. For this toggle we can select uh, toggle. We can go to the code pen and use this toggle. So for that we just have to copy the this lapel function. We will paste it here in our link section and just correct the format, and we can create an input section also. So user will give an input. So for example it's like a type check. Now we will create another UL for our country sections. So for that we will create a UL here with list. Okay, we will use a class name as our constant which we have created, and set to this. For example, we will write drop down p2 to drop down. Now as our drop down for our country has been clicked, so there should be a name of our country and there should be a flag, right, to identify the country. So for that we will use a flag cd. So you can go to the website flag, and here for the country flag you can use the API to call them. So for that just uh, we will create a function of JavaScript which will work like a one click function. When we click on the drop down box, it will use us flag name with flag logo. So for that we will create country.map functions. So we'll write here country. Here we will create country drop down button, set show country drop down button, and here we will write the image source. So image tag, uh, remove this. Here we will write the source, which is element. Here we will use backtick, and we can write the our flagcd.com http. So https flagcdn.com, which will be 32 into 24. And now we can use our the image is not getting load. We will give an alternative for it, which is we will create an NS tag over here. We're not getting it from header, so okay, so we have to write this in our link function. We use this closing tag new link function. This will activate when the URL will be like this. So the URL is like country slash the it will has the ISO. So we will write element and your dot ISO to alpha, and we can give the class name for the design flex. Okay, and this will work on click function. Okay, so we created a function for the our toggle theme. So we have used the theme as a body class name, and we are getting by document. We create a function with the two condition, if and else. If our theme is equals to light theme, then it will give them an option of dark theme, or our light theme will be set as a default. If you go to here, we have used country and country name. So for that country names, we will create another component with the name of countries.js. Here we will write all the country names, right? So for that we require two letter ISO. So we will go back to our news API and go to the documentation, and when you select the top headlines, so it will suggest a two letter ISO code. So we will select this. So let two letter. Okay, so it will be very tough for us to write single name. So we can open ChatGPT. We can give this as a, and we will can say that make the format correct, and also create the variable ISO country country equals to, where we will write, for example, so let's see it will able to write or not. So yeah, our two letter ISO has been formatted very easily, and other two letter with the full name has also been written. So we will copy this. It will go up to Zimbabwe. So I think we have ZS, so it will go up to Zimbabwe. Yeah, we will copy this, paste it over here. We have two letter iOS. Everything is been set up. Okay, now we will let the country we have two letter as for each. We are using loop object, where our uh, which we have created two letter iOS is alpha to alpha. So it is here. So we will take this, use as element. For PNG, we will use again the same URL in our header section. So we will use this same. But there will be a little bit tweak here. Is that okay? So we have used the we have to use the backtick, and here we will set our element only because png. Now the country name which we have created right now. So we get country name element dot to uppercase, and okay, now we will push this in our object. Now we will create a function where we can create this country code and country names. So for that we will create a function get country name with country code, and an array with a country code. If it is not available, then we will create an else, and we will return directly a country code. Okay, so it's not curly braces, we are using a function, so for that we have to use the small bracket, and we will log console dot log country. We will export. Okay, so we have created another component with the name of countries. We have a 2-letter iOS which is required here for the country specific country news, and we have created the country IOC country with the full name. So if a user wants to read the full name of the country, we will get it from here. Now we will go to our header sections again, and here we have created a drop down menu for our country. So we are getting the country name from there, and we are getting the country name dot from country dot jx. So we will have to import the country here. So for that we will write import, and we are importing from uh, countries. So we are importing countries from countries. So that's it. Okay, now we will go to our app.css. We will give a universal css for all the tag. For that we will use star margin. Let's just set margin equals to 0, and padding also equals to 0, and box size will be a border box. Okay, and we have added the css. So we are using this image as our background for the light theme. This image has been taken from this relevant css. As you can see that we have expected and taken the background, and when you go to dark mode, and this dark mode image has been taken from here relevant css. Okay, So and we have uh, put the whole css in one go. If you want this css, you can check link in the description. You can get the GitHub repo link where you will find this css. Now we will go to our app.js, and here we will import our header. So for that we will write import. We are importing our header from. So for that we have to go to the header sections and we have to export this. So what we have to just write export default header, and in app.js we will write components and header. And to use this as our um, router, we will import the router functions also. So for that, import browser router, and we are creating two routers. So we will write router from React down. That's it. And this in return function, we will create an div with the name, class name with root, with class name full, and we will create a browser router, and here we will create an header sections which we have been using, and then we will give the paths. Right now we have to create news, top headlines and country, but we have to give the routes also. So for before that we will use export over here. If we go to our html index.html main file, here we set the id as a root, and here we have the app. We are getting element by root, and that's it. Let's run it. So for let's first clear our console. We will write npm run there. Okay, so we are getting error in logo. So we are not using the logo, so we will remove this line of logo. Okay, just defined our card component where our news gonna be fetched. So we will create a card. Here we will import the React library and create a card function, and we will pass a prop as an attribute, as a parameter which will be responsible for fetching the data. Now let's just create our divs for the card. Let's just create our div for the card, and this is the universal div. Now we will create another div for the title of the news. So here we will create another div. Here we will create b tag where our title will be, and just use props dot title. Okay, so how we are using this? For that we will open our terminal and go to server directory, and when we do node server.js and go to browser localhost 3000 alias, Here you can see that our title has been coming to the title attribute, descriptions, URL to image. So by using prop.title, we are fetching this title, right? So we will use prop.title and we will create another div. We will fetch the image. So for that we will use image tag, and here there will be a source. So source will be image URL, right? So we will create image. So prop dot image URL, and if there is not an image, we will use directly an alternative of it, which is image. Now we will create another div for the description. So for the description, we are using a paragraph tag. In this tag, we will describe our description. So props description, which will be in the form of string. So we will, and there should be a limit of description, right? So we will use um, substring of word around 0 to 0 is minimum, 200 is maximum. All right, now we will create another div for our info like source, right? So we will create one more div here. Let's just give the class name as info and create another div for our source. So for that we will create spentech, and here we will write source, and we will use an anchor tab, so our source will be displayed over here. So in this anchor tab we are gonna use link, which will be props.url, will target as a blank, and here we will give the source also should be around 0 to 70, means we are not required to get the whole link. If it is longer than that, then we will not use it. From 0 to 70 words. Okay, now we will create another div for the author name. So for that we will use the p tag, and here we will create another sprint tag. Here we will write author, and in our p tag we will use props that author, and here we will display the published date and time. So for that we will again create an sprint tag right here, published. Here we will create which is prop published at. Okay, so all this will be going to be in another div. So let's just create that div and just copy that, paste it over here. Okay, so that's how we to define our card. Now let's just give them a class name and little bit tailwind CSS for them. So for here, and let's just give it everything card and give the top margin of 10 pixel. This is our description. So we will give a class name description, and this is our info as we already gave the class name info. And let's just give a pre-built let's just give a pre-built Tailwind CSS to it. Source slash info is a flex, item is center. This will be a gap of 2. I'll just give the font to it. I'll just give the class name to our anchor anchor tag also. After target, let's just give a class name to our anchor tag also so we can design it. So link and underline break word. Okay, it's for the origin flex, and we are here giving a origin item as a name of the class so that we can edit our author. Let's just give a font to it. Font. Okay, so we have created the card for our title, description, info, where we have saved the image as anchor tag, and we created a source or origin card also in our main div, which is author name and published it out. Now let's just give a little bit style to our card. For that we will use this. Okay, so we have created the normal card for our news. So we have created a flex card, right? And this is what we have added. So we have added the designs to it, and we have created the another div for the style purposes. Now we can create a loader function. So for that, just create a component called loader. Here we will import React library again, and we will create a function called loader, and we will return it at a class div tag, and let's just give a class name to it. Loader container width is full, absolute will be flex, and justify the it as a center of our website, and top margin is 0 and left also 0. And now we will create an span tag, class name loader, and we will import this in our different section, for example in header, card, all news, and all those component. For first of all we have to export it. Export default, and we will export our function, and we have to export our card function also. Okay, now we have to create 3 sections. Example news, where we will get all news, top headlines, and country news. So for that we will create 3 components. First it is news, second it will be our top headlines .js, and there will be a country news. So for that we will use country news.js. There will be a country news. So for that we will write country news, and we will create another component for it also. Now we have country news, news, and top headlines. So first we will create a top headlines. Okay, for that we will import our use state. So, and we will also import the React, and we will also import the use effects for our routes. And we will also import the card which we just created. For that, we will write import card function, and we are importing from the card, right? And we will also import the loader. Right now, our loader CSS will have to be right. So go to the index.css. Here you can see the loader CSS. The CSS has been taken from the internet, pre-built loader. For that, you can copy the whole CSS because the CSS is bigger, it around 341 lines. So I'm not writing the CSS one by one. You can you can go to the description and find the GitHub repository. You can go in the description, you can easily find the GitHub repository, GitHub repo, and you can directly copy the CSS from there. We will not write one by one CSS. So let's come back to our all news. Here we have imported our loader. Now we will create a function. Okay, so now we will use a constant variable to use the state variable and save the data, page, and total results. So for that we will use constant. This state variable data. So data store the list of the news of articles, page store the current page number, total result store the total number of news article available, is loading indicate whether the data has been loaded or not. Now we will create page handling functions. So function handle previous. Okay, so we have created two different functions, handle previous and handle next. Handle previous decrease the page size, page number by 1. Handle next increase the page number by 1. For fetching the data, we will use effects. We will fetch. Now in our server.js, we are fetching from news API. Now our server has been created, and when we run that, it's run on localhost 2003, on localhost 3000. Now we will copy this and fetch the article from our server. So for that, we will go to our news. Here we will fetch from localhost all news, and here also we will give the parameter for the page and page size. When click on this, that should also fetch the data. Yeah, it's working. Now we will handle the error by then response f response dot k set is loading equals to true, and return response dot clone JSON dot data dot total results, and then set data equals to my JSON dot data dot articles is loading is equals to false, and I will create this page. The use effect hook and run whenever the page changes. It said is loading true. Um, True to show the loader. If fetch data from the API server using the fetch API, if the response is okay, it pass the JSON and update the total result and data. Is set is loading false once the data is fetched. Now for the render, we will use return function. Given we will use return again, and this is the great use of React, that we can reuse the component. Now we can directly use our card component where we have written the title equals to, now we will get direct element dot title description equals to element dot description and image URL. Okay, so for the image URL to image, and T is the capital, so we will write here dot publish at publish at, and we will have a URL for the source. So URL, and we have element dot URL. We have the author name, element dot author. Yeah, that's author. And we can use the source equals to element dot source dot name. So for the source we use this object source, and we are using just name. We will not give the full, and we will use a key as an index. Yeah, so we have used our default component and we reuse it, right? And when we use our card component, and when it is loading, we will use another our component which is loader. So loader slash, and we use our loader component. We use our two component, one is card and one is loader here, and we use our fetch use effect for fetching the data, and we store all those in here using the card component. Now let's create about the pagination, the button previous next. So for that we will use is loading function again, and we will use a div class with a class name, and we will align the item in the center. So here we are creating two page, which is next button and previous button. For that we will create a button which will be disabled until we click on it. So disable, and there will be a page, default page, which is less than equals to 1, and let's just give this button as a class name, and pagination button, let's just do this text center, and this will be work when we click on click function. Now we will use our two functions which we have created, handle previous and handle next. So here we will create handle previous function, handle, and we will create a pre-tag. Here we will give class name, and we will use an arrow. Okay, so what we are doing here is that we have created a pagination. So when on the next and previous, it will active, and we have created a component render a greet card component is loading true, otherwise it show the component. So we use a component card component. If it is not working, then it will show the loader, and below the grid it show the pagination control if is loading is true. So if loading is true, this will work, otherwise it will not work. Now we can export this, export default and the function name, which is news. In similar way we will create top headlines. So we just copy this and paste in top headline. Here we have to do little bit of changes. So as we are using the farms in our server, okay, so for we have created a category, so we have to use the farms for this. So in top headlines we have to change the name of the function top headlines. We have to create another constant variable for farms, and we will use the this loading total result will be same, the pagination will be the same. Let fix the page size, so let page size equals to 6, and in our card in our news also we have to fix the page size, so let fix that also. So for here we will create a let variable page size equals to 6 in our top headlines. Now we have to change a little bit our fetch API key. So right now we are using for the all news, so we have to use the categories. So the categories which we have created in our category farm, so if you goes to the header, we have created a category constant category, so we are going to use it in our top headlines. So for that we will use which will be dollar arms, and this we use for handling the empty category. Now we have to change on this little bit. So similarly we have created in server.js, just copy this from top headlines to the end of it, and here we will go and we will remove from all news. Now we will use it from top headlines. So top headlines language category language page and pagination will be same, but here we have to set the category farms. So right now we have to do one more thing. Okay, so we can remove this, cut this, and from here we can use language English, and here we can use the category. Here we can change our response also. If it is not equals to, then we will do a little bit of error handling. So for that we will use throw arrow, which will be failed to fetch data, and it will return our this line. Then we will create a JSON variable, JSON of the JSON result data Then we will do is loading is equals to false. To put the semicolon, and we will do one more thing to catch the error. So we will use sketch. We will log the error fetching, and we will print the error answer. And we will set is loading as a false. And here we have to give one more parameter, which is farm.category, which we have created over here. So it will be a farm.category. Return function we use the similar way. We map the data, create a card component. So let's just make it look cleaner. So okay, so we have to change it a little bit. So if data length is greater than 0, and if it's not work, then we will use another p tag and write no articles found for this category or criteria. And then we will use our loader, and we will use loader here. And the pagination will be the same as previous, no need to change anything over here. And we will export our new function, which is top headlines. In similar way, we will copy this and paste it over. Okay, so there is one error showcasing over here. Okay, so it is here. Now done, we will go to in country news. Again, copy this whole thing. And in country news, we also have to change a little bit. So for example, we use farm, that's it, that's good. Similar way, we will remove this category function, and we will change this for the country. So we will write country slash, we will remove this farm, and here we will use farms dot iso and the country. Then we will have the country code, then the page and the page size, and we will have to response it. So we will return a function. So we will if response is okay, remove this not equals to, and if response is okay, we will use to response with our JSON, no need to clone it, and else we can handle our error, else we can log the error, which could be console.error failed to fetch data, and we will set our loading function to false if it fails to load, and we will return none to prevent setting empty data if the result is failed. Then we will use again my JSON file, and then we will do the same thing, and we will remove this catching error and set our categories to iOS, categories to ISO, and similar way we will return this with a card and our pagination button. So now our all component has been created. Now we will route them in our app.js. So for that we will use import method for importing our routers. So import country news from components slash country news, and we will import the news and top headlines also. So for that we will write the same thing, import news from, for the top headlines we will write import again the components, and we have done a little bit mistake over here. We have to set as a routes, and now we can use them over here. So header, now we can create router functions, router routes, and we can use them, and here we can create route, provide the path. So if our URL is simply this, means localhost, and we write nothing, then we will show them news, which will be news function. So we will import that, and we will write same for the top headlines and country. So here we will paste it, and if we have top headlines as a URL, then we will config them to be category, and here also we will use the top headline URL. Similar for the country, we will use country and the ISO code, and we will use the component of our country. So country news. Okay, so I have created one more file which is post.css.config. You have to install this in your terminal, in your client. So just install that, and everything has been configured and written. Now let's check our server, is it running or not. So npm run there, and make sure you have created another tab. Make sure you have opened the another tab. Make sure you open two terminals, one for the backend, which is server. Change the directory to the server and start your server by node server.js. And for the front end, create another create in another terminal. Go to your client directory and start your localhost by running npm run there. Now when this website should be run. Okay, so website has been running. So let's go to our code and start it once again. Server.js, and node server.js. It's running. Let's reroute this. Go to business. Okay, so we are not able to fetch the data. Let's see what happens to the. Okay, so we have Then the mistake typo, which is it is path. So just change that, and the server will be automatically restart. Okay, so here we have the news. You can check that pagination has been working very well. You can change the theme of the project also, and the source location has also been working. And we can go to the different top headlines and terminals. Check if it is responsive, as we use tailwinds cases for that. Yeah, it is responsive, and okay, so it's working fine. That's it. We successfully built a news aggregator using Munchtek. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for more coding tutorials. And if you encounter any kind of error while creating this website, you can join the Discord server, link in the description, and drop your error over there. We will try to respond you as soon as possible. We will try to resolve your error as soon as possible. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified whenever I post a new video. Thanks for watching and happy coding.